Hey, welcome back to the show, the Now Morning Show with a difference. Today we are broadcasting from the Hyatt Regency in Trinidad, and it is the first day of the CARICOM Cricket Conference, of a two-day conference. And we just came off the conversation with Dr. Nigel Camacho, the president of the Queen's Park Cricket Club, and giving his perspective on the fans as well, and also giving us a bit of a history lesson as it pertains to the fan engagement in West Indies cricket from the 70s, 80s, and to now. But speaking about the business of cricket and the entire development of the West Indies cricket plans, etc., moving forward, 2024, 2025 and beyond, we have none other than the Chief Executive Officer of Cricket West Indies, Mr. Johnny Grave. Mr. Grave, thank you very much for sparing some time with us. It is indeed a pleasure to have you on the show, especially that we are mere minutes away from a huge event, the CARICOM Cricket Conference, and I'm sure you have a lot to look forward to in this conference.
Yeah, we do. Look, it's great to be in Trinidad, to come into the Hyatt this morning and see, the extent of this conference and the guest list that's coming. Fantastic opportunity for Cricket West Indies to talk cricket with some of the most important stakeholders in the region, particularly the CARICOM heads of government. And yeah, it's perfect timing for us just ahead of the biggest event that's ever going to come to the Caribbean in the T20 World Cup that's coming in June, and just on the back of us launching our new 4-year strategic plan. So it's a great opportunity for us to talk cricket as we are here this morning.
Tell us a bit about that 4-year strategic plan.
Yeah, it's really a roadmap for us to ensure that at all levels of the game that we've got a really clear plan to reinvigorate cricket at every single level. And we have always been very vocal in saying we cannot do that on our own, and we need important stakeholders, the players, the governments, the fans, to come with us on that journey. And hopefully this is a really important stepping stone for us in the process of getting that plan out to the public, discussing it with the governments, and particularly around some of the key things that we need to do in terms of improving our facilities, reinvigorating school cricket at primary and secondary school level, which I don't think any of us fathomed quite how devastating the 2 years of COVID was on school activity and school sport. So yeah, it's just a great opportunity, and one that we're all excited about and going to embrace, and I'm sure we'll get lots of opinions.
Opinions aside, I am very happy to hear you mention a focus on youth, because we do know that is one of the topics that will be covered this morning. But cricket spans beyond just youth or even males. Women in cricket have been doing an incredible job as well. So I'm wondering if there will be conversations to that end as well, perhaps pay gaps and things of that nature being discussed as well.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, we've placed women's cricket firmly at the heart of our plans. We announced with WEPA, the Players Association, at the back end of last year, our new 4-year MOU that will sit alongside our strategic plan. By 2027, we're going to have parity in pay, which I don't think anyone's really fathomed what that means. I think in 2025 and 26, where our West Indies women's team will be playing in both a 50-over World Cup and a T20 World Cup, their earnings as a minimum are going to be over $200,000 US. And that's just from West Indies in those events. So cricket is big business now. We're the second biggest sport. In the last 10 years, I think, from player earnings, what CWI revenue is and what the Caribbean Premier League revenue is, we're talking about over $1 billion US of investment in the Caribbean. So it is more than just a sport, and now it's very much a business as well.
Speaking about US dollars, when you take a team from the Caribbean, let's just say the West Indies men's team, and you take them to a country, New Zealand, you spend, I'm sure, more than $1 million US. What are the returns like for Cricket West Indies for a tour such as that, going away from home, a bit of a lengthy distance as well across the seas?
Yeah, look, the economic model that I've spoken about a lot at international level is not in the favour of the West Indies being a high-cost region and a low-revenue region from a TV network perspective, which really drives all the revenues of the international board. So yeah, when we go away, we have to fund our player costs in terms of both their business class travel, which is now the same whether you're in the West Indies men's or women's team, and all their match fees and salaries. And then all the revenue that is associated with those games in terms of the major ones of ticket revenue and TV is kept by the home board. So we have to hope that when New Zealand come back here, we make enough to cover not just the cost of hosting them here, but also the cost of having to have travelled there to play reciprocally.
A few weeks ago, you made mention of the ICC having a big part to play in the major disparities of various cricket boards and the West Indies Association, the Cricket West Indies. How did you come about with this conclusion that the ICC is not having the best of times with the Cricket West Indies?
Well, I think, look, I've worked in the sport for 24 years and for the vast majority of that in the UK, which is one of the big benefactors of the economic model. So I know firsthand how skewed it is towards the big three countries. But also I think, you know, what we've been successful in and looking at it positively is in the last 8 years, every single men's event, which are the biggest revenue earners in the sport, have all gone to Australia, England or India in terms of the hosting. And in this new cycle, we've managed to not only break that through extensive lobbying at ICC, but also ensure that the West Indies got the first one. So it's a massive achievement, I think, to have been given this huge opportunity to host this biggest ever T20 World Cup with 20 teams. But it's also a massive opportunity for the entire region. There are going to be thousands of people that come here, and having partnered with the US in order to attract the event here, lots are going to come into New York and Florida and then come down for when the tournament gets very exciting, which is when we hit the Super 8 stage and the semi-finals and finals. So it's it's going to be a massive event for us, but it is a real opportunity for the second biggest sport, billions of people watching, for the Caribbean, really to promote everything that we have to offer as a region.
Now, granted that we are looking forward to those opportunities, opportunities will come with challenges. You will have learnings from your many, many years in your position. So let's talk a little bit about the tasks that you've had to approach and some of the learnings, some of the successes, what has improved since you've actually taken up your position at the helm, particularly with interest as someone with so much knowledge of the English version of the sport, if you will, bringing that to the Caribbean shores.
Yeah, look, I think the first thing that we did was we got together with the players, and it was really important for us to strike a balance. We have to coexist with all the opportunities that now present themselves to players, and understand that, you know, a 20-year-old can earn $1 million from 8 weeks' work in India, and it's unrealistic to think that we can compete with that financially. So we have to coexist. So one of the first things we did was to create a contractual window with the players that they would guarantee that they would get the full Indian Premier League in which to play, and that we, West Indies Cricket, wouldn't play during that window. And the same for our own Caribbean Premier League, which is, again, for our top players, is another great opportunity, not just for them to earn money, but to play with their friends and to play in front of their friends and families. So those two things sort of united the players. So we've significantly cut our legal bill, which I'm pleased to say. And then we've started to invest in high performance. So the launch of the Men's Academy and the Women's Academy, headquartered in Antigua. But not just that, headquartered in a facility that we now own, the full title freehold of 22 acres of land right by the airport in Antigua, with a cricket ground that obviously was established by Stanford back in the day. But we're going to enhance that significantly to become a genuinely world-class training facility. And we hope that one of the things that we'll get onto over the next 2 days, is how we can, over the next 2 years, roll that out across the region. So it's not just one facility in Antigua, it's actually a network of high performance academies where our best and most talented cricketers, male and female, can come and get access to the best facilities, the best coaching, and then by turn, hopefully, we'll have better players, better teams, and the results that all of us want, which is, you know, as you rightly say, the women have just whitewashed the Pakistan women in Karachi, and that's what we want to see. We want to see West Indies winning.
Speaking about West Indies winning and the women in sport and everything as it pertains to cricket in the West Indies, what would you like to see the most come out of the two-day conference here at the Hyatt Regency, knowing that all the top regional leaders in the English-speaking Caribbean, they're coming together to assist in the success of West Indies cricket?
I think we'd sort of take an on-the-field view of that. Every time the West Indies teams plan well, prepare well, and are completely united, we get the results that we want. We saw that in Australia. We went down on the 28th of December for a test match series that started in mid-January. We had an extensive training camp in Adelaide, and we won the second test match at the Gabba, as everyone knows, you know, in fantastic style, because we had a very clear plan and everyone was united behind it. So it's really important for us as an organisation that we have the support of our governments, that the governments understand where they can add the most value and where the most need is. And certainly from our side, We want them to be aligned with our strategic plan and with a real focus, as I said, on facilities and on those ministries of education, working with ministries of sport to reinvigorate school cricket.
I love that we're going to the youth to reinvigorate, because a lot of the time the conversation would be reinvigorating the fans coming into the stands, which is a part of the conversation as well, but particularly with the reinvigorating of the younger generation, we can also talk about the younger representatives of the sport. And when you talk about facilities and administrative support, I imagine there is some focus and some structure in that strategic plan that speaks specifically to under 19 and youth teams, yes?
Absolutely. I think it's cricket's a fantastic sport in terms of the national curriculums of the Caribbean, in terms of it ticks all the boxes in terms of skill, strategy, stamina, fitness, catching, throwing, but also it teaches fantastic values. The sport of cricket has some core values around, you know, although it's challenged sometimes by modern players, you know, respecting the umpire's decision,
Right.
understanding, and for young people to understand to lose well and to win and to celebrate other people's success,
Right.
that discipline, that teamwork, that camaraderie. They're great life skills that cricket can teach. And yeah, as a non-academic, I would say it's much more fun for kids to learn in the classroom and outside the classroom through cricket than necessarily reading textbooks and listening to teachers. So for us, we think that cricket is a great medium for young people to be inspired, but also young people to learn.
Then that structure, or that strategic plan rather, that we ruled out, are there any facets of that that you can share that outright help and support the next generation of cricketers, and things that we can look to?
Yeah, I think technology is one that we need to embrace more. We've done it in 2021, we did remote production. So all of the international cricket and the Caribbean Premier League was actually produced in a studio with all the cameras using the cable and wireless fibre network to go back with a 1-second delay. It was extraordinary to see 20 different cameras and commentary feeds going into one studio that wasn't even based in the Caribbean. The vision obviously is to bring that studio here to have the hub in the Caribbean. But also, going back to your point around schools cricket, we've got a fantastic education resource where kids can learn through cricket, the geography of cricket, where the test playing nations are, do their history lessons on cricket, do their sciences on how the grass grows and pitches are prepared. But we want to digitise that. At the moment, it's a classroom resource, but it's a printed folder of lessons, and we really want to animate that and take that online, because we think that's a better way for kids to learn, and obviously for teachers as well. It's so much more accessible if all that wealth of information was in the cloud and they could download it. So technology is definitely something that we're looking to embrace, and just making sure that, you know, as a team on the field, but as a team off the field with all our stakeholders, we're all really united behind the plan and the vision to get back to the top of the world.
Beautiful future planning.
I have to take the opportunity though, Mr. Grave, with all the things happening around cricket, and you're at the helm as well, ensuring that everything in Cricket West Indies and the Caribbean, as it pertains to cricket, happens as best as possible, as the way it should be. Do you get time at all to actually enjoy the game when it does happen?
Not really, but I'll be enjoying it if West Indies are on the field on the 29th of June at Kensington Oval, and even more so if we're here for the semi-final. In England, West Indies semi-final here in Trinidad would be a fantastic occasion, and I think I'd personally enjoy seeing Kyron Pollard walking around the boundary in an England tracksuit, as he's been signed by a coaching consultant there. So yeah, that would be one of the...
When it happens, when. Speak it into being. That's definitely a great place to be. But then let's talk about how we improve the red ball game, as you call it. Let's talk about some of the improvements, because we know that you have the strategy already in place. You have that has been rolled out, and coming out of this two-day conference, we expect great things. But what do you hope to see?
I think with red ball cricket, and we've invested a lot, we're now playing at an under-17 level for the boys, under-19s level as well. We've really invested in A-team cricket, and our academy team playing more and more four-day cricket, including the recent West Indies Championship, where the academy have come off the last victory against the Barbados team, which I don't think any of us would have thought they would have done in the first time that they've played there. And obviously, you know, the university team, the CCC team, we're hoping that's a long-term commitment, that therefore the best young cricketers aren't having to choose between their education and their sport, and they can combine the two. So over the long term, we think that's important. But like most things in West Indies cricket, there's no one single thing that we can do that will be the silver bullet we all want. So it's about having a multiple approach. But I think one of the most important things about red ball cricket is where you develop and learn the game, and having really good, consistent quality pitches, particularly for our brand of cricket we want to play, which is going back to the days of fast bowling and flamboyant batters. You need to have very, very good pitches, and that's a big focus of our strategic plan, and probably the first time we've called out the importance of facilities and pitches in such a way.
We have the under 15 levels, the under 17 and the under 19s, but there seems to be, at points in time, we lose some of the top under 19 cricketers as they transition to a possible A-team and senior team selection in the West Indies. Do you think there is a need for an under 23 competition that will aid in identifying even more talent than the under 19 level?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the key things from the high performance strategy within the overall plan, that we'll be looking to have an under 23 tournament in about 3 years' time. So rather than just start immediately, we want to make sure that at local level they identify that crop of players, they put them through a 12-month performance program, a bit like we did with the Academy before they joined. We're looking forward to bilateral under 23 cricket, so Guyana under 23 will come to Trinidad to play, and then eventually in year 3 a full regional tournament. We want to have that stepping stone approach because one, regional tournaments are so expensive flying everyone in, but also to make sure that when we do it, the players have got the best opportunity to perform and they're already part of a 12-month organised strategy. And then one of the other things that I think has been mentioned in the past, we haven't formally announced it yet, but I won't be the first to give you an exclusive on it.
Love
but
that.
We're talking to the Caribbean Premier League about next May launching a development league of the CPL. We haven't quite settled on the age group. It might be under 25s, it might be 9 players under a certain age group, but yeah, we think that's an important part, particularly playing it just before the CPL draft so that the franchise owners can actually look at the best performers at that young level before selecting their squads ahead of the CPL, which will be always hopefully in this natural position of August, September, which we kind of now settled on that exclusive window.
Perfect timing. Incredible timing, well timed. And I wonder if any of, or rather as we close, if you can tell us just a little bit about the planning with US cricket, because that is not something I've ever thought of before in my life. It's not one of the countries we think of when we think cricket, at least at the Premier. So I think it's an interesting bunch of developments that I wonder how it will impact West Indian cricket, because there's certainly leanings and chairings that would be happening between the two entities, if you will.
Yeah, I think some people think US waking up to cricket as a sport is a threat. We think it's an opportunity. If I'd shown you a photo of the stadium in New York on Monday, it looked very much work in progress. Yesterday, all the turf was laid, so it's now got green grass. It's got a big hole where the pitches will go that are currently en route from Florida, where they've been going up to New York to be dropped in 2 weeks' time. So. Yeah, look, it's a massively ambitious project to build a 34,000-seater stadium in 4 months in a park in New York that's been under snow for many of those months is ambitious. But at the end of the day, we feel that if you're not ambitious in the US, you're not going to have the desired effect. We know there's a big diaspora of cricket fans, West Indians, Indians, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis in New York and in that tri-state area, and there's probably no better way to wake up the US than having what will be a surprise, I think, to all of them still, that the biggest event in the US from a sporting perspective will be India-Pakistan in that stadium. It will be the most viewed sport ever to have been played in the US. It will surpass the Super Bowl, and for Americans that's something that they don't believe until they see the numbers, and the US is all about the bigger the better. So yeah, it's a big plan for us, and we're also talking as well about the LA 28 games that cricket's going to now be part of. So we're talking to Pan Am around whether we can have cricket in the Pan Am games in 2027. The winners, we hope, of that may be able to represent the region in the LA games, and that might be our best way of ensuring there's West Indian representative in the LA games. But there's some of the things that we haven't announced, but we are talking about, and hopefully that will come up again over the next 2 days here.
Lots to be excited about.
Very, very exciting times for cricket, not just in the Caribbean, but of course in the West Indies
version. At this point.
Fantastic. Really, really enjoyed the conversation this morning, and I'm sure that you will be looking forward to even more conversations with CARICOM in the future.
Absolutely. I think our government relations, certainly in the last 7 years that I've been here, they've never been stronger. There's never been more open communication. And yeah, look, we know we've got to work together. And whilst we've got a plan, it's not set in stone. It's one that's going to continue to evolve as we change, the landscape of cricket change, but also as we hear from fans and the CARICOM leaders about other ideas that we haven't considered. Yeah, we certainly think this plan will evolve and adapt. And I'm hoping for lots of new ideas that we can steal and put in the plan come Monday morning.
Well, lots of good energy, a lot to look forward to, and a lot being shared with us here on the Now Morning Show as this special edition will continue after the break. But we say thank you very much to the CEO of Cricket West Indies joining us this morning, Mr. Johnny Grieve, giving us some tremendous insight and even more to be excited about in the beautiful game of cricket. Guys, we'll be back after these messages. Stick around, the Now Morning Show continues.